The morning sun had barely risen over the palace grounds when Prince William stumbled through the heavy oak doors of the east wing. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, and blood dripped from a cut above his left eye. The young prince, only 19 years old, collapsed onto the marble floor as servants rushed toward him with gasps of horror. Princess Charlotte was having breakfast in her private chambers when she heard the commotion. She was 17, with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a spirit that refused to bend to anyone. When her lady-in-waiting burst through the door with tears streaming down her face, Charlotte knew immediately that something terrible had happened. She ran through the corridors, her silk morning gown flowing behind her like water. Guards tried to slow her down, but she pushed past them with surprising strength for someone so young. When she reached her brother, she dropped to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his face. William's eyes were swollen shut on one side, and his breathing came in short, painful gasps. Charlotte called for the royal physician, her voice cracking with emotion. She had always been protective of her older brother, even though tradition said he should protect her. William was kind and gentle, loved by everyone in the kingdom. He spent his days studying music and poetry, visiting orphanages, and making sure the poorest families in their land had food to eat. He had no enemies, or so everyone thought. The physician arrived within minutes, followed by the king and queen. Their mother let out a cry when she saw William's condition. And their father's face turned red with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. But Charlotte remained calm, her mind already working through what must have happened and what she needed to do next. As the physician examined William, he discovered broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and countless bruises covering his body. This was not a simple accident. This was a brutal attack, carried out by multiple people who wanted to cause serious harm. The physician gave William medicine for the pain and wrapped his injuries carefully. But he warned the family that recovery would take months. When William finally regained consciousness, he could barely speak. His jaw was bruised and swollen, making every word painful. Charlotte sat beside his bed, holding his uninjured hand and leaning close to hear his whispered words. He told her that he had been visiting the lower town, bringing supplies to families who needed help. On his way back to the palace, as darkness fell, 4 men had jumped him in an alley near the old market square. They wore masks over their faces and gloves on their hands. They carried heavy wooden clubs and knew exactly how to hurt someone without killing them. William said they spoke very little, but one of them had mentioned something about sending a message. They took nothing from him, not his money, not his jeweled rings, not even his royal seal. This was not a robbery. This was something far more sinister. Charlotte listened to every detail, her expression growing darker with each word. When William finished speaking and fell back into a restless sleep, she stood up and walked to the window. And the palace gardens stretched out before her, peaceful and beautiful, but her mind was far from peaceful. Someone had dared to attack a member of the royal family. Someone had hurt her brother, the kindest person she had ever known, and that someone would pay for what they had done. She turned to her personal guard, Sir Marcus, who had been standing silently in the corner of the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and countless scars from years of service. He had protected Charlotte since she was a baby and would give his life for her without hesitation. Now she looked at him with eyes that burned with determination. "I want you to gather your most trusted men," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the anger boiling inside her. "I want you to find out who did this to my brother. I want names, faces, and locations. I want to know who ordered the attack and why. And I want them brought to me alive, so they can answer for what they have done." Sir Marcus bowed his head. "Your Highness, perhaps we should wait for the king to give orders. This is a matter for the royal council to discuss." Charlotte shook her head firmly. My father will want to send diplomats and investigators who will spend weeks asking questions and getting nowhere. My mother will want to keep this quiet to avoid scandal. But I will not wait. I will not let whoever did this think they can get away with it. You have served my family for 30 years, Sir Marcus. You know how these things work. You know that if we wait, the trail will go cold, and justice will never be served. The old guard looked at the young princess with new respect. He had watched her grow from a wild child who climbed trees and challenged boys to sword fights into a young woman with intelligence and courage that rivaled any knight. He knew she was right. The longer they waited, the harder it would be to find the truth. "What are your orders, princess?" he asked. "Start in the lower town, near where William was attacked. Question everyone who was in the area that night. Offer gold to anyone with information, but promise consequences to anyone who lies. Find out if anyone saw the attackers arrive or leave. Check if any strangers have been spotted in the area recently. Look for people who have suddenly come into money or who have disappeared without explanation." Sir Marcus nodded, taking mental notes of everything she said. Charlotte continued, her mind racing through possibilities. "Also, I'll investigate within the palace itself. Someone knew William would be in the lower town that night. Someone knew his route and the time he would be returning. This was planned too carefully to be random. There may be a traitor among our own people." The suggestion made Sir Marcus uncomfortable. The idea that someone inside the palace walls could betray the royal family was almost too terrible to consider. But again, the princess was right. The attackers had known too much. "I will begin immediately," Sir Marcus said. "But, Your Highness, you must prepare yourself for what we might find. Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than ignorance." Charlotte met his eyes without flinching. "I am not afraid of the truth, Sir Marcus. I am afraid of doing nothing while my brother's attackers walk free. I am afraid of living in a palace where we are not safe. I am afraid of showing weakness to whoever thought they could hurt my family without consequences." As Sir Marcus left to begin his investigation, Charlotte returned to her brother's bedside. The Queen was there now, weeping softly as she stroked William's hair. The King stood by the window, staring out at the kingdom he ruled, his expression troubled. "Charlotte," her mother said softly, "you should rest. You have been here all morning." "I cannot rest while William suffers," Charlotte replied. "I cannot rest while his attackers are still out there." The king turned to face his daughter. "The royal council will meet tomorrow. We will discuss the proper response to this attack." "Tomorrow may be too late, Father. Evidence disappears. Witnesses forget or are silenced. Whoever did this will be covering their tracks right now." The king frowned. "What are you suggesting?" "I have already sent Sir Marcus to begin investigating. He will find the truth." The king's frown deepened. "You gave orders without consulting me?" Charlotte lifted her chin. "I gave orders to protect this family. Is that not what we are all supposed to do?" For a long moment, father and daughter stared at each other. The king saw his own stubbornness reflected in his daughter's eyes. Finally, he sighed and turned back to the window. "Do what you must," he said quietly. "But remember, Charlotte, that justice and revenge are not the same thing. I know the difference, Father. I want justice. But if I must choose between justice and protecting my family, I will choose my family every time." As the day wore on, news of the attack spread through the palace and beyond. Servants whispered in corridors. Nobles gathered in worried groups. The common people in the town below began to hear rumors that something terrible had happened to the beloved prince. Fear and uncertainty hung over the kingdom like a dark cloud. Charlotte spent the day at her brother's side, reading to him when he was awake, sitting in silence when he slept. She sent messages to Sir Marcus every hour, demanding updates. The old guard and his men worked tirelessly, questioning everyone they could find in the lower town. By evening, they had found the first witness. An old woman who sold vegetables near the market square remembered seeing 4 men waiting in the alley where William had been attacked. She had thought it strange at the time because they did not look like common criminals. They moved with purpose and discipline like soldiers. When Sir Marcus reported this to Charlotte, she felt her blood run cold. Soldiers. Not random thugs or desperate thieves, but trained fighters. This meant the attack was even more carefully planned than she had feared. It meant someone with resources and connections had ordered her brother's beating. Find out everything you can about any soldiers or former soldiers in the area, Charlotte ordered. Check the records of men who have left military service in the past year. Question the commanders about anyone who might have reason to hate the royal family. Sir Marcus bowed and left to continue his work. Charlotte looked down at her sleeping brother, her resolve hardening like steel. Whoever was behind this had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that hurting William would frighten the royal family into submission. They had not counted on Charlotte's determination to find them and make them pay. As night fell over the palace, Charlotte lit candles around William's room and whispered a prayer to every god she knew. She prayed for her brother's recovery. She prayed for strength to see this through. And she prayed that when she finally found the people responsible, she would have the wisdom to choose justice over the burning desire for revenge that consumed her heart. In the darkness beyond the palace walls, the investigation continued. Sir Marcus and his men moved through the shadows, asking questions, following leads, and slowly piecing together the puzzle of who had attacked Prince William and why. And they did not yet know that their search would uncover secrets that reached into the highest levels of power, secrets that some would kill to protect. The hunt had begun, and Princess Charlotte would not rest until every person responsible for her brother's pain was found and brought to justice. The kingdom was about to learn that beneath the princess's gentle appearance lay a will of iron and a mind as sharp as any blade. Those who had hurt her brother would soon discover that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The royal guard was on the hunt, and they carried with them the full weight of Princess Charlotte's command. Track down who hurt her brother, no matter where the trail led, or who tried to stand in their way. Justice would be served one way or another. But 3 days had passed since the attack, and Sir Marcus had assembled a network of informants throughout the lower town. Gold coins changed hands in dark corners, and slowly, information began to flow. The old guard reported his findings to Princess Charlotte each evening in her private study, away from the curious ears that seemed to be everywhere in the palace. On the 4th night, Sir Marcus brought news that changed everything. One of his men had tracked down a tavern keeper who remembered serving drinks to 4 strangers the night before the attack. The men had spoken quietly among themselves, but the tavern keeper had overheard fragments of their conversation. They mentioned the palace, the prince's usual routes through town, and most importantly, they had used a name, Lord Ashford. Charlotte felt her stomach twist at the mention of that name. Lord Ashford was one of her father's closest advisers, a man who had served the crown for 20 years. He came from an old, noble family with vast lands in the northern territories. He was respected, wealthy, and powerful. He was also known for his ambition and his belief that the kingdom needed stronger leadership, more military might, and less concern for the common people. "Are you certain the tavern keeper heard correctly?" Charlotte asked, keeping her voice steady despite the shock rolling through her. He seemed credible, Your Highness. And there is more. We found a stable boy who saw 4 horses being prepared at an inn owned by Lord Ashford's family. The horses were readied late at night and returned covered in sweat before dawn. The timing matches perfectly with the attack on Prince William. Charlotte stood and walked to the window, her mind working through the implications. If Lord Ashford was involved, this was no simple crime of violence. This was something much larger, possibly even a conspiracy against the throne itself. But she needed more proof before she could make accusations against such a powerful man. What reason would Lord Ashford have to hurt William? She asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Sir Marcus hesitated before speaking. Your Highness, there have been tensions in the Royal Council. Lord Ashford has been pushing your father to increase taxes, expand the military, and take a harder stance against the neighboring kingdoms. Prince William has opposed him at every turn, arguing for peace and care for the people. Some say Lord Ashford sees the prince as an obstacle to his plans for the kingdom's future. Charlotte nodded slowly. She had heard about these disagreements from William himself. Her brother had complained that some members of the council seemed more interested in power and conquest than in the welfare of their own people. Lord Ashford had been particularly vocal in his criticisms of William's gentle approach to governance. If Lord Ashford wanted to silence my brother's voice in the council, why not simply argue against him? Why resort to violence? Perhaps he wanted to send a stronger message, or perhaps he hoped that with Prince William injured and unable to attend council meetings, his own influence would grow. There is also another possibility, Your Highness, one that troubles me greatly. Charlotte turned to face the old guard. Speak plainly, Sir Marcus. I need to know everything. There are rumors that some members of the nobility would prefer a different heir to the throne. Prince William is well loved by the common people, but some lords see his kindness as weakness. They worry that when your father passes, William will not be strong enough to rule effectively. They may be trying to push him aside, to make him appear weak and unfit. The implication hung heavy in the air. Charlotte had never wanted the throne for herself. She knew that by tradition and law, it would pass to William when their father died. But if William was seen as weak or incapable, there were complex rules about succession that could be manipulated by those with enough influence. Oh, we need more evidence, Charlotte said firmly. Whispers and rumors are not enough to accuse a lord of the realm. We need proof that links Lord Ashford directly to the attack. We need to find the 4 men who beat my brother, and we need to make them confess who hired them. Sir Marcus bowed. I will continue the investigation, Your Highness, but we must be careful. If Lord Ashford suspects that we are closing in on him, he may try to eliminate the evidence or flee the kingdom entirely. Then we must move faster than he can react. Double your efforts. Offer more gold to your informants. Search every tavern, every inn, every stable in the city. Someone knows where those 4 men are hiding, and I want them found. As Sir Marcus left to carry out his orders, Charlotte sat down at her desk and began writing letters. She wrote to commanders of the city guard, asking them to report any unusual activity. She wrote to merchants and guild masters, requesting that they keep their eyes open for strangers matching the description of the attackers. She even wrote to the Mother Superior of the city's largest convent, asking the nuns to use their network of contacts among the poor and forgotten to gather information. Charlotte had learned from her tutors that power was not just about force and commands. It was also about networks, relationships, and knowing how to ask for help from the right people. She was calling in every favor she could, activating every connection she had built over her 17 years of life. The next morning, Charlotte visited her brother again. William was awake and sitting up in bed. then though the pain was still evident in every small movement he made. The physician had said the broken bones would heal, but the internal injuries would take much longer. There was also concern about lasting damage to his kidneys from the brutal kicks he had endured. "You should be resting," William said weakly when he saw Charlotte enter the room. Despite his pain, he managed a small smile. "You look exhausted, sister." "I will rest when justice is served," Charlotte replied, taking his hand. "How are you feeling today?" "Like I was beaten by 4 men with clubs," William said, attempting humor despite his condition. "But I am alive, thanks to God and the physician's skill. Have you found them yet? The men who did this?" Charlotte hesitated, unsure how much to tell her brother. But William had always valued honesty, and he deserved to know the truth. "We have leads, strong leads. But William, what we are discovering suggests that this was not a random attack. Someone powerful may have ordered it." William's expression grew serious. "Who?" "I cannot say yet. We need more proof. But I promise you, brother, I will find them. Every single person involved will answer for what they did." William squeezed her hand gently. "Charlotte, be careful. If powerful people are involved, you may be putting yourself in danger. Perhaps you should let Father handle this." "Father will hold meetings and send diplomatic messages while the criminals escape. No, this requires someone willing to act quickly and decisively. It requires someone who cares more about justice than politics." "That has always been your strength," William said softly. "But also your weakness. Your passion makes you fearless, but it also makes you vulnerable. Promise me you will not do anything reckless." Charlotte wanted to make that promise, but she could not lie to her brother. "I promise I will do what is necessary to protect this family. That is the only promise I can make." William looked troubled, but said nothing more. He knew his sister well enough to understand that once she set her mind to something, nothing could change it. That afternoon, Sir Marcus returned with more information. His men had found one of the attackers. The man was a former soldier named Thomas Crane, who had been dismissed from the army 3 years earlier for excessive violence during a peacekeeping mission. He had been living in a boarding house on the edge of the city, keeping a low profile and doing odd jobs for money. "May we have him in custody," Sir Marcus reported. "He is being held in the old guard tower, away from the main prison where word might spread. He has not yet been willing to talk, but he will." Charlotte stood immediately. "Take me to him." "Your Highness, that is not appropriate. Let me question him first and bring you the information." "No, I want to look him in the eye. I want him to see the face of the person whose brother he hurt. Take me to him now." Sir Marcus knew better than to argue when Charlotte used that tone. He led her through the palace and out to the guard tower, an old stone building that had once been part of the original fortifications. The tower was rarely used now, making it perfect for holding a prisoner in secret. Thomas Crane was chained to a chair in a small room lit by a single torch. Then he was a large man with scars on his face and arms, the marks of someone who had lived a violent life. When Charlotte entered the room, he looked up with defiant eyes, showing no fear. "Do you know who I am?" Charlotte asked, standing before him with her hands clasped behind her back. "You are the princess," Crane replied with a sneer. "Come to see the man who beat your brother?" Charlotte felt rage surge through her, but she kept her expression calm. "I have come to give you a choice. Tell me who hired you and your companions to attack Prince William, and your punishment will be exile. Refuse to speak, and you will face execution for treason against the crown." Crane laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the stone walls. "You think I fear death? I have faced death on battlefields where you were still playing with dolls." Execute me if you want. I will tell you nothing." Charlotte stepped closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "You misunderstand me. I do not make idle threats. But I also understand that men like you value loyalty above all else. So let me tell you what will happen to the man who hired you. When I find proof of his involvement, and I will find it, he will not face a quick execution. He will face public trial, public humiliation, and the seizure of all his lands and titles. His family will be stripped of their name and fortune. His children will grow up in poverty, knowing that their father's crimes destroyed everything they had." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Crane's face. Charlotte continued, pressing her advantage. "But if you cooperate, if you give me the proof I need, I will ensure that your testimony is kept sealed. The man who hired you will not know that you betrayed him. You can take your exile to distant lands and live out your days in peace while he faces justice. Your loyalty to him will have served its purpose, and you can move on with your life." Crane was silent for a long moment, considering her words. Finally, he spoke, his voice less confident than before. "And how do I know you will keep your word? How do I know you will not execute me anyway, once you have what you want?" Charlotte met his eyes steadily. "You have my word as princess of this realm. And despite what you may have heard about nobles and their promises, I have never broken my word to anyone, high or low. Ask anyone in this kingdom about Princess Charlotte's honor. And they will tell you the same thing." Crane studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. What he saw there seemed to convince him. He slumped in his chair, the defiance draining from his posture. "It was Lord Ashford," he said quietly. "He approached me and 3 other former soldiers 2 weeks ago. He offered us each 100 gold pieces to teach the prince a lesson. He said we were not to kill him, just hurt him badly enough that he would be unable to attend council meetings for months. He said the prince was leading the kingdom to ruin with his weak policies, and someone needed to stop him." Charlotte felt her suspicions confirmed, but hearing the words spoken aloud still sent a chill through her. A member of her father's own council had ordered the beating of the crown prince. "Where are the other 3 men?" she asked. "I do not know. We split up after the attack and agreed not to contact each other until enough time had passed. But I can tell you their names: Marcus Fletcher, Simon Wade, and Robert Thornton. All former soldiers, all desperate for money." Sir Marcus, who had been standing silently by the door, stepped forward and began writing down the names. Charlotte turned back to Crane. "You will write out a full confession, detailing everything Lord Ashford said and did. You will sign it and seal it with your mark, and then you will be escorted to the northern border and released. If you ever return to this kingdom, the exile order will be revoked, and you will be executed immediately. Do you understand?" Crane nodded. "I understand. And Princess, for what it is worth, I am sorry. I needed the money, and I did not think about who I was really hurting. Your brother has a reputation as a good man. I should not have agreed to it." Charlotte's expression did not soften. "Your regret does not undo the broken bones or the pain my brother endures. But at least you have chosen to do the right thing now. That is more than I can say for the man who hired you." She turned and left the room, Sir Marcus following behind her. Once they were outside, she allowed herself a moment to lean against the stone wall and take deep breaths. Her heart was pounding, and her hands were shaking with suppressed emotion. "You handled that well, Your Highness," Sir Marcus said quietly. "Better than many experienced interrogators I have known." "I did what was necessary," Charlotte replied. "And now we need to find the other 3 men and get their confessions as well. And we need to gather more evidence against Lord Ashford. One confession may not be enough to bring down a lord of his standing, We need multiple witnesses, and we need to find proof of the gold he paid them. My men are already searching for Fletcher, Wade, and Thornton, and I will send investigators to look into Lord Ashford's financial records. If he withdrew a large sum of gold recently, there will be records of it. Charlotte straightened up, her composure restored. Good. We are close now, Sir Marcus. Soon we will have everything we need. And then Lord Ashford will learn that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law when they harm this family. As they walked back toward the palace, neither of them noticed the figure watching from a distant window. Lord Ashford had spies of his own, and he was beginning to realize that the young princess was far more dangerous than he had anticipated. He would need to act quickly if he wanted to protect himself from the storm that was coming. The palace was unusually quiet the next morning when Charlotte woke to urgent knocking on her chamber door. She had barely slept, her mind churning through strategies and possibilities. When her lady-in-waiting entered with a pale face and trembling hands, Charlotte knew immediately that something had gone wrong. Your Highness, there has been another incident. One of the men Sir Marcus was searching for has been found dead. Charlotte threw off her blankets and began dressing quickly. Which one? How did he die? Marcus Fletcher. Your Highness. He was found in the river this morning by fishermen. His throat had been cut. Charlotte felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Lord Ashford was eliminating witnesses, moving faster than she had anticipated. If Fletcher was dead, the other two men were likely in danger as well. She needed to find them before Lord Ashford's assassins did. She rushed through the palace corridors to find Sir Marcus, who was already organizing search parties for the remaining two attackers. His face was grim as he spread maps across a table, marking locations where his informants had reported possible sightings. We underestimated him, Sir Marcus said without preamble. Lord Ashford must have spies watching our movements. He knew we were close to finding the other men, so he decided to silence them permanently. Then we need to move faster, Charlotte said. Split your men into two groups. Send one group to find Simon Wade and the other to find Robert Thornton. Offer them protection in exchange for their testimony. Tell them that if they help us, we will keep them safe from Lord Ashford's reach. Sir Marcus nodded and began issuing orders to his men. Charlotte watched them depart, then turned her attention to another problem. She needed to confront her father about Lord Ashford, but she needed to do it carefully. The king valued loyalty and would not easily believe that one of his most trusted advisers could be guilty of such treachery. She found her father in his private study, reviewing documents with a group of counselors. Lord Ashford was among them, and standing near the window with an expression of concern that Charlotte now recognized as completely false. He was a skilled actor, she realized, able to show whatever emotion best served his purposes. Father, I need to speak with you privately, Charlotte said, entering the room without waiting for permission. The king looked up with irritation. Charlotte, I am in the middle of important matters. This will have to wait. It concerns William's attack. It cannot wait. The mention of William's name made the king's expression soften. He dismissed the counselors with a wave of his hand, though Lord Ashford lingered near the door as if hoping to hear what would be said. Charlotte stared at him until he finally left, closing the door behind him. What have you learned? The king asked once they were alone. But Charlotte chose her words carefully. The investigation has uncovered evidence that suggests someone within the palace may have been involved in ordering the attack, someone with resources and connections. The king's eyes narrowed. You are speaking of someone on my council? I am speaking of Lord Ashford specifically. We have testimony from one of the attackers naming him as the person who hired them. We also have evidence of suspicious financial transactions and movements that align with The timeline of the attack. The king stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Lord Ashford has served this family for 2 decades. He is a loyal advisor and a trusted friend. I will not hear such accusations without irrefutable proof. Father, I understand your loyalty to him, but you must consider the evidence. Lord Ashford has been vocal in his opposition to William's policies. He has argued repeatedly that the kingdom needs stronger leadership. What if he decided to remove William from the equation by making him appear weak and vulnerable? You are letting your emotions cloud your judgment, the king said sharply. You are so focused on finding someone to blame for William's suffering that you are willing to destroy the reputation of an innocent man. Charlotte felt frustration rising in her chest. I am not letting emotions guide me. I am following evidence. One of the attackers has already given a full confession naming Lord Ashford. Another has been murdered, likely to prevent him from doing the same. Does that not strike you as suspicious? The king walked to the window, his back to Charlotte. For a long moment, he said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with conflict. If what you say is true, if Lord Ashford truly ordered this attack, then he has committed the worst kind of betrayal. But Charlotte, you must understand the position I am in. I cannot simply arrest a high lord based on the word of a criminal. It would cause chaos among the nobility. Some would see it as tyranny, the king turning on his own advisors. Others would use it as an opportunity to settle old scores by making false accusations. So, we do nothing? We let William's attacker remain free and close to our family? Father, every moment we delay is another moment Lord Ashford has to cover his tracks and eliminate evidence. The king turned to face his daughter, and Charlotte saw something she had rarely seen in her father's eyes: uncertainty, and he was torn between his duty as king and his love for his son. What do you propose? He asked quietly. Give me 3 more days. Let Sir Marcus and his men continue the investigation. If we can find the other 2 attackers alive and get their testimony, along with proof of the gold payments, then you will have enough evidence to act without appearing tyrannical. But during those 3 days, you must keep Lord Ashford close. Do not let him know that he is under suspicion. Assign guards to watch his movements. Make it impossible for him to flee or to send more assassins after the remaining witnesses. The king considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. 3 days. But Charlotte, if you cannot provide the proof you claim to have, then this investigation ends, and I will not allow you to continue making accusations that could tear apart the unity of my court. 3 days is all I need, Charlotte assured him, though privately she wondered if even that would be enough time. She left her father's study and went directly to find Sir Marcus. The old guard had received word from one of his men. Simon Wade had been spotted in the southern district of the city, hiding in a warehouse owned by a merchant who owed him money. Charlotte insisted on going with Sir Marcus to bring Wade in. Your Highness, it may be dangerous, Sir Marcus protested. If Lord Ashford's men are also looking for Wade, there could be a confrontation. Then we had better reach him first, Charlotte said firmly. They took 6 guards and traveled in unmarked carriages to avoid drawing attention. And the warehouse was in a rough part of the city where the buildings leaned against each other like old drunks and the streets smelled of fish and refuse. Charlotte wore a simple cloak with the hood pulled up to hide her face. Inside the warehouse, they found Simon Wade hiding behind stacks of crates. He was a thin man with nervous eyes and hands that would not stop shaking. When he saw the guards approaching, he tried to run, but they caught him easily. Please do not kill me, Wade begged, falling to his knees. I did not want to hurt the prince. I needed the money. My daughter is sick, and the physicians would not treat her without payment. Charlotte pulled back her hood, revealing her face. Wade's eyes widened in shock and fear. "I am not here to kill you," Charlotte said. "I am here to offer you a choice. Yes, help us bring Lord Ashford to justice, and I will ensure your daughter receives the best medical care available. Refuse, and you will face trial for attacking the Crown Prince." Wade began to cry, tears streaming down his weathered face. He said it would be quick. He said we would just rough up the prince a little to teach him a lesson. But when we were there, when we saw him, it got out of control. Crane kept hitting him even after he was down. I tried to stop it, but I was afraid Crane would turn on me. "Write down everything," Charlotte commanded. "Every detail of your meeting with Lord Ashford, every word he said, every piece of gold he gave you. And tell me where we can find Robert Thornton before he ends up like Marcus Fletcher." Wade nodded frantically and accepted the paper and ink that Sir Marcus provided. As he wrote, his hand shook so badly that some words were barely legible, but the content was clear. He described meeting Lord Ashford in a private room at an inn, receiving advance payment of 50 gold pieces with the promise of 50 more after the job was done. He confirmed that Lord Ashford had specifically instructed them not to kill William, just to injure him severely enough to keep him bedridden for months. When Wade finished writing, he looked up at Charlotte with desperate hope. "My daughter, you will really help her?" "I will send the royal physician to examine her today," Charlotte promised. "But if you have lied about anything in that confession, the deal is void. Do you understand?" "I have told the truth, Your Highness. Every word. Please, just save my little girl." Charlotte felt a momentary pang of sympathy for the man. And he had made terrible choices, but he had been driven by desperation to help his child. Still, that did not excuse what he had done to William. Justice would be tempered with mercy, but there would still be consequences for his actions. As they left the warehouse with Wade in custody, one of the guards approached Sir Marcus with urgent news. Robert Thornton had been found, but not alive. His body had been discovered in an alley not far from the warehouse, his throat cut in the same manner as Fletcher's. Lord Ashford was eliminating his conspirators faster than Charlotte had feared. "We have lost another witness," Sir Marcus reported grimly. "But we still have Wade and Crane. 2 confessions should be enough, especially combined with the financial evidence my men are gathering." Charlotte nodded, though she felt the weight of the 2 dead men heavily. She had known there was danger in this investigation, but she had not been able to prevent their deaths. Lord Ashford was proving to be more ruthless than she had imagined. That evening, Charlotte returned to the palace to find it in chaos. Word had somehow spread about the investigation into Lord Ashford. Nobles were gathering in worried clusters, whispering about conspiracy and betrayal. Some supported the princess's efforts to find justice. Others accused her of making wild accusations without proper evidence. The court was dividing into factions, exactly what her father had feared. Lord Ashford himself was nowhere to be found. He had left the palace hours earlier, claiming he needed to inspect his estates. But according to the guards Charlotte had asked her father to assign, he had not gone to his estates. He had gone to the harbor where he had boarded a ship preparing to sail for foreign lands. "He is fleeing," Sir Marcus reported. "The ship is set to depart with the morning tide." Charlotte felt rage surge through her. After everything, after the beatings and the murders and the lies, Lord Ashford thought he could simply sail away and escape justice. She would not allow it. "Gather every available guard," she commanded. "We are going to the harbor. That ship will not leave port with Lord Ashford aboard." Sir Marcus looked troubled. "Your Highness, we may not have the authority to stop a ship from sailing. Lord Ashford is still technically a free man. We do not yet have an arrest warrant." "Then we will get one. Send word to my father immediately. Tell him that Lord Ashford is attempting to flee the kingdom. Tell him that if we do not act now, we will lose our chance for justice forever." While messengers raced to the king, Charlotte and a company of guards rode hard for the harbor. The city streets blurred past them as they pushed their horses to the limit. Charlotte's mind was racing even faster than the horse beneath her. She had promised William that she would find his attackers. She had promised herself that she would see justice done. She could not let Lord Ashford escape. They reached the harbor just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and orange that reminded Charlotte of fire and blood. The ship Lord Ashford had boarded was a merchant vessel with tall masts and full sails, preparing to catch the tide. On the deck, Charlotte could see a figure in noble's clothing standing near the railing, watching the shore with what looked like relief. "Stop that ship!" Charlotte commanded, her voice carrying across the water. Harbor guards looked at each other uncertainly. Stopping a ship from sailing was unusual and could cause diplomatic problems if the ship belonged to a foreign merchant. But the presence of the royal guard and the princess herself made them hesitate to refuse. Before they could decide what to do, a messenger arrived on horseback, carrying the king's seal. He handed a rolled parchment to Sir Marcus, who quickly read it and then held it up for all to see. "By order of King Edmund, Lord Ashford is to be detained and brought before the royal court to answer charges of conspiracy to harm Prince William. And any ship captain who aids in his escape will face charges of harboring a criminal." The captain of the merchant vessel, a grizzled old sailor who had no interest in getting involved in royal politics, immediately ordered his crew to lower the gangplank again. Lord Ashford tried to offer him gold to continue sailing, but the captain refused. No amount of money was worth facing the king's wrath. Royal guards boarded the ship and seized Lord Ashford. He struggled briefly, but was quickly overpowered. As they brought him down the gangplank, he locked eyes with Charlotte. The mask of noble concern had finally fallen away, replaced by cold hatred. "You have no idea what you have done, little princess," he hissed as they passed. "You think you have won? Or you have just started a war within the court that will tear this kingdom apart." Charlotte met his gaze without flinching. "You started this war when you ordered the attack on my brother. I am simply finishing it." As Lord Ashford was led away in chains, Charlotte allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. The investigation that had begun with her brother's broken body had led here to the arrest of one of the most powerful men in the kingdom. But she knew this was not the end. Lord Ashford was right about one thing. His arrest would send shockwaves through the nobility. The real battle was just beginning.